You may not believe this, but happiness changes its shape after you've lived for more than 50 years. It becomes softer, quieter, and somehow much deeper. I want to tell you what it really becomes, and if you stay with me, I promise you'll hear something today that you'll carry for the rest of your life. So let me begin with this. Happiness after 50 is nothing like happiness at 20. And that's the first truth most people never see coming. When you're younger, you chase happiness. You run after it like it's a prize. You think it comes from big moments, big wins, big achievements, big applause. But after half a century of living, you start to understand something surprising. Happiness doesn't run, it waits. And what it waits for is you. Let me explain. When I turned 50, something quietly shifted. I didn't notice it at first, but over time I began to feel it. Like a small whisper behind me saying, "Slow down, look around. There's something here you've been missing." For years I ignored that whisper. I kept pushing through life like I always did. Working, fixing things, trying to prove myself, trying to be useful, trying to be strong, trying to keep everyone happy. But then, one morning, one very ordinary morning, everything changed. I woke up, walked to the kitchen, made my usual cup of coffee, and as I stood by the window, I realized something I never expected. I couldn't remember the last time I felt truly peaceful, not excited, not proud, not busy, peaceful. That realization hit me like a gentle earthquake, quiet but strong enough to change the shape of my world. And that's when the journey toward real happiness began. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like life was moving so fast that you stopped noticing it? Stopped noticing yourself? Stopped noticing the little things that once made you smile? It's okay if you have. Most people do. But here's the gift of living more than 50 years. You finally get the chance to notice again. And that brings me to the first truth I learned. Happiness after 50 is found in the moments you used to ignore. Like the warmth of a cup in your hands, the softness of morning light, a slow walk, a familiar song, a deep breath that you actually feel instead of rushing through. These small things aren't small anymore. They're the exact places where happiness hides. And here's the second truth. Happiness after 50 comes from letting go. Not letting go of people, not letting go of hope, not letting go of dreams, letting go of weight. Weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. The weight of trying to please everyone, the weight of old mistakes, the weight of expectations, the weight of comparison, the weight of wishing you had done life differently. There comes a moment, somewhere between 50 and 70, where you finally breathe out all that heaviness. And when you do, happiness has space to walk in. I'll tell you something personal. There were years when I used to look back and regret things. Decisions I made, opportunities I missed, people I hurt, people who hurt me, words I should have said, words I wish I never said. But one day a thought came to me so clearly I still remember the exact moment. If I can forgive others, why can't I forgive the earlier versions of myself? That question changed my life. Because forgiving yourself is one of the purest forms of happiness you will ever feel. And if you've lived long enough, you know this too. Happiness isn't perfect. It's patched together by the things you survived, the heartbreaks, the losses, the failures, the years that didn't go the way you planned, the people who walked away, the dreams that never unfolded. These things don't ruin happiness, they deepen it. Because after 50, happiness isn't naive. It's not innocent. It's not blind. It knows what pain feels like. It knows what loneliness feels like. It knows what disappointment feels like. And still, it chooses to rise. That's the beauty of happiness at this age. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It doesn't need to be seen or admired or praised. It just needs to be felt. Let me ask you something else. When was the last time you looked at someone you love and really saw them? Not their age, not their flaws, not their stubborn little habits, but them, their presence, their heart, their softness, their story. After 50, you realize that happiness isn't in having a lot of people. It's in cherishing the right ones. The people you can sit in silence with. The people who know your scars but stay anyway. The people who make you feel lighter just by being near you. You begin to understand that love doesn't need to be dramatic to be real. It doesn't need fireworks. Sometimes love is a warm hand resting quietly on yours. Sometimes it's someone remembering how you take your tea. Sometimes it's a simple message saying, "Did you eat?" And that leads to the third truth. Happiness after 50 comes from presence, not performance. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You stop trying to be the strongest person in the room. You start being real, and realness is where happiness grows. You know, when I was in my 30s, I thought strength meant holding everything together. Never crying, never asking for help, never showing weakness. But after 50 years of living, I learned the real secret. Strength isn't how well you hide your pain. Strength is how gently you carry it. And that softness brings happiness you never knew before. Let me tell you about another moment in my life, a moment that taught me the fourth truth about happiness. I was sitting alone one evening, no TV, no noise, just quiet. And for the first time in a long time, I felt okay with the silence. It wasn't empty, it wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. And that's when it hit me. Happiness after 50 often feels like peace more than excitement. Not the kind of peace where everything is perfect, but the kind where you stop fighting life, stop fighting time, stop fighting yourself. You begin to accept that life doesn't have to be extraordinary to be meaningful. It just has to be lived with intention. You start enjoying slow mornings. You start valuing conversations more than arguments. You start choosing your battles more wisely. You start laughing at things that used to frustrate you. And here's a strange thing. You begin to appreciate your own company, truly appreciate it. Because after 50 years, you finally know who you are, and you no longer apologize for it. Now let me share the fifth truth. Happiness grows when gratitude grows. I know that sounds simple, maybe even cliché, but it's the kind of truth you can't understand until life has humbled you a few times. When you reach a certain age, gratitude stops being an idea. It becomes a daily habit, a lens you look through, a quiet awareness. You become grateful for the small mercies, for the moments you didn't expect, for the things you once overlooked. You're grateful for the people who stayed, and strangely, even for the ones who left, because they taught you something important. You're grateful for the health you have, even if it's not perfect. You're grateful for the memories that warm your heart, even if they come with a little ache. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, it just makes life bigger than the pain. Let me ask you another question. Have you ever noticed that the older you get, the more you appreciate the weather? A cool breeze, a sunny day, a quiet evening, rain tapping on the window. When you're young, these things don't matter much. You're too busy rushing somewhere, chasing something, trying to become someone. But after 50 years of living, you realize that these moments are not just background noise. They are life itself. Now here's the sixth truth. Happiness after 50 comes from acceptance. Acceptance of your story, acceptance of your body, acceptance of the people in your life, acceptance of the things you cannot change. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. Acceptance means choosing peace over control. You stop arguing with the past. You stop fighting with the future. You stop blaming yourself for things you didn't know back then. Acceptance brings a quiet happiness that feels like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. But I want you to stay with me here because this next part is important. There is a seventh truth, one most people never hear. Happiness after 50 is about contribution. Not grand gestures, not dramatic acts, small things, sharing wisdom, listening without judgment, holding someone's hand, giving advice when asked, making someone feel seen, showing kindness without needing credit. At this age, you realize something powerful. You don't need to be important to change someone's life. You just need to be present. And that kind of presence, quiet, stable, warm, creates a happiness that stays with you. Now let's talk about something few people admit. After 50, you start counting time differently, not in years, in moments. Moments that matter, moments that feel like a soft blanket around your heart. Because you know time is precious now, and that realization changes how you live. You spend less time worrying, more time noticing, less time proving, more time feeling, less time regretting, more time appreciating. And somewhere along the way, you look in the mirror and think, I'm still here. I'm still living. I'm still learning. And that realization is happiness too. Let me tell you the final truth, the one I wish I knew earlier, the one that changes everything. Happiness after 50 comes from loving the life you have. Not the one you lost, not the one you imagined, the one you have. Right here, right now. Your story didn't go perfectly. No one's does. But it went uniquely, bravely, honestly. And every chapter, good or bad, brought you here. To this moment, to this understanding, to this deeper kind of happiness. A happiness that doesn't shout. A happiness that doesn't demand. A happiness that doesn't chase. A happiness that simply rests in your chest. Like a small, warm light. And if you take nothing else from me today, take this. Happiness after 50 isn't about what you get. It's about what you notice. It's about what you release. It's about what you cherish. It's about who you become. And if you're still becoming, if you're still learning, if you're still growing, you're still living beautifully. So let me leave you with this. Happiness isn't a finish line. It's a quiet companion. And once you reach 50, it finally walks beside you.